Today we have a story of a crazy entitled parent bringing race into the discussion. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, mom refuses to work and continues to ask me for money. I'm a 31-year-old female who's working on a second master's degree, and I start law school next year. I have a family already. I live in a completely different state than my mother. My mom, who is almost 60, refuses to work as she calls it embarrassing. She used to work years ago and then just up and quit on a limb. Never went back after that. Now she's constantly trying to find ways to make fast money or comes up with a new business idea every week that she never even starts. She's lazy, and I hate to say that. I hate to even put her in the negative light because, well, she's my mom. But my little sister, who still lives with my mom, asks me for money here and there for school things and that sort of thing. To which I always say yes because she's obviously not getting it from her parent. I feel bad because I want her to be able to enjoy her childhood without being excluded from activities and trends and that sort of thing. Well, me and my sister made a joke about it, how she always asks for money and I send it right away. I think my mom saw that as an opportunity to ask me for money the same way my sister does, so now it's a weekly thing where she's asking me for money. I hate to say no to my mom. There's been a couple times where I'll lie and say I don't have the amount she asks for and I'll send less. But yesterday, it ticked me off so much because she asked me for money. Sometimes I don't even like to open her messages because it's like that's all she messages for now. When she messaged me, she blew up my phone messaging and calling saying it was an emergency and needed it right away. I didn't respond till today. I sent her less than what she asked again and sent it through Cash App. She wakes me up and says, "I clearly told you to send it through Zelle." She clearly did not say that, however. I would have caught that because when she asks for money through Zelle, for some reason it takes her a few days to receive it. And if she needed it right away, why would we go through Zelle? Common sense. When I sent through Cash App, it was a big deal because apparently it took it from her because she owed something. Then she got mad. How is it my fault you had a debt that I covered? I don't know, am I wrong? How should I approach this at this point? I'm over it. So I just gotta say, I've used Zelle in the past and usually Zelle was like instant for me. It's kind of weird that they would have to wait a few days on a Zelle thing. Maybe it takes a few days to fully clear, but usually when I Zelle, it's right in the balance right away. That said, OP didn't do anything wrong here. They just sent it through an available option and sucks for them, but they had a debt. I mean, it kinda sucks, but understandably, Cash App wants to get their money back, right? Lisa Knows Best commented, "Do not send her any more money and be very careful with how you help your sister. Pay directly for things she needs. Don't just send her money or your mother will probably take it. Don't even open her messages or take her phone calls. Your sister, if she's old enough, needs to get away from your leech mother. Start helping her learn how to be independent. Best thing you can do for her so she learns not to fall subject to supporting your mother." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, my mom said she would end me and give herself in to the police. I've recently come out as trans, male, and she acted supportive at first, but then basically interrogated me because she needed to be sure I wasn't just freaking out because of puberty. Nevertheless, I obliged and hoped she would support me and give my school the pass to use my chosen name. It would be an understatement to tell you that didn't happen. She came to the conclusion I was just unhappy with the changes of my body because I didn't want to grow up. Brought up my autism that I'm not diagnosed for yet, and tried to use the day a boy in preschool looked up my shirt to say I'm scared of femininity. Try to say I'm not trans because I liked using skirts as a kid, and one of the worst things she said she wouldn't be able to love me as a boy because she would have to kill dead name for me to exist. After that heck of a conversation, she pushed me back into the closet and we don't really talk about it. Unless you counter reinforcing femininity and saying how pretty and important my given name is and that I should always remember that, until recently where I got a shirt custom made with my middle name on it. Because I didn't want to use my given name and couldn't use my chosen name, and she absolutely freaked out. She asked if I was delusional again, and in her own words, "If you ever get your boy delusions again, I'll end you and give myself in to the police," which just rendered me speechless. I was wondering if I should cut contact in the future, and that whole situation just answered my question. Update: thank you to everyone for your kind words and advice. I'm currently in therapy with a professional who's aware of my identity and hasn't said anything to my mother so far. I'll do my best to stay safe and get out as soon as I can. I didn't realize this was as serious as it is. So I think it's pretty safe to say that you're probably going to get a mixed reaction from people who do or don't support such things. I'm talking reactions as far as like comments, replies, and things like that. Needless to say, in general, she doesn't seem like a very tolerant person. I mean, if she's acting like that and saying these incredibly, almost hysterical things, I mean, I wouldn't want to involve her in any of my personal situations. Exedra commented, "As soon as you can, get free. Cut her off. She won't let you be who you really are and will end you for it. Some messed up crap. You might even look into, at the library away from her, how to become an emancipated minor. Means you'll have to prepare yourself to support yourself financially solo, but it's better than risking your life, safety to her. Best of luck, stay safe." Our next story is, my mom isn't happy with my wedding plans. My fiance and I had plans to get married in January of this year, but his visa got denied. It's been so heartbreaking and hard on us. We've been apart since June of 2023, and we thought the long distance has ended. But I guess the universe has other plans for us because now we're applying for a marriage visa, and that will take 1 to 2 years for him to come back to the US. So now we have plans to get married in his home country of South Korea in December and go to Japan for our honeymoon. As a side note, I'm very lucky with the job I have. I get a lot of vacation time and I can go to South Korea 3 times a year. I'm lucky in that sense. I would be getting married in South Korea alone due to my mom not wanting to make the trip because she's phobic of flying and my dad not caring to come. When I say get married, I just mean the legal part of it, that we're legally married. There won't be a big wedding celebration, and when he comes back on this marriage visa, that's when we'll have a wedding celebration for all our family and friends. My dad did say he'll possibly come to South Korea when I get legally married, but really I came to terms with I'll be getting married alone, and it doesn't bother me. My mom told me that we should get married in Canada, but honestly, we already have plans and I'm so excited to go to Osaka with him. Also, I feel like since the visa denial, I don't care about a wedding. I just want to sign the papers. I told my mom we have plans for South Korea, but she pleaded with me to have it in Canada, since my parents can drive from New York, where we live, to there. I just told my mom I'm not sure if I want to, and then she started having a meltdown. She told me I can do this for her so she can be at my wedding. She then went on with how it's clear I don't want her at my wedding. She also threw in that I'm ruining Christmas if my dad goes to South Korea to watch me get married. There was a lot of other stuff she said, but that was the highlight of it. I mentioned this idea to my fiance and he understandably has concerns. He's worried about the legal aspect of this and other issues regarding his visa denial. Sure, both Canada and US is different from each other, but he seems worried about this and not comfortable with getting married there. I want to respect him and understand him more if there's something I'm missing. I tried telling my mom how he feels and she shot it down and told me he can do this for them. She also said that he's not being respectful towards her for not being able to attend my marriage in South Korea. My mom agreed that we can speak to our immigration lawyer about this and contact the Canadian embassy or any type of officials about this, but with that, my fiance still feels uncomfortable and has concerns. Even my brother said he can put some effort into coming here since I'm always going there. But that's not even what any of this is about. I don't want to put my fiance in deeper legal issues with trying to come back to the US so we can start our lives together. I'm also worried that I get 10 days of time off from work while my fiance can get 3 to 4 days off. I'm worried that after we get married in Canada, he would have to go back to South Korea, and if I won't be able to join for that time period. If you know long distance, you know every moment together is so important. I don't want it to just be 3 to 4 days and I have to drive back home with my parents. I don't know, I just feel stuck on what to do, and I don't know if I'm wrong for wanting to keep the existing plans in South Korea. Does that make me selfish towards my parents? I really hope OP can keep in mind what's important here and what's at stake here, and that is getting married and securing your marriage with your partner. I hope OP doesn't let them convince them that Canada is the way to go, because it sounds like they're from South Korea, right? Their partner? Go to South Korea, lock that man down, live your life happily ever after, and if you want to try to have a relationship with her after that, I'm sure she'll still be around, she'll still want it, give her some concessions then. Scout336 commented, "This is the breakpoint for you, OP. What I mean is, this is the point in your life where your husband-to-be, your partner, should become your number one priority. You are becoming a team. Life decisions must be discussed and made between the two of you, the two people committing to spending their lives together. It's not about what you, your brother, or your parents want anymore. It's about you and your soon-to-be husband deciding together. Set this rule now. You'll always be open to input from your parents, but you and your husband make the final decisions on everything. You've been raised that family comes first, while your future husband is about to become your primary number one family member. Keep in mind as you're setting a precedent with your parents, brother, friends, everyone, if you choose your parents' wishes over your spouse's now, you are putting them first and they will expect you to continue to do so. This is a terrible message to your fiancé. Take a stand now. Future spouse and I will discuss the pros and cons to each possibility and choose which works best for us as a couple. Please respect our decision as a couple. I will not go against my spouse. Not now, not ever. We work together." Our next story is 19-year-old male guy's South Asian parents won't allow him to be with me, 18-year-old female. Thoughts on what next? I'm in a really tough spot and could use some advice. I, 18-year-old female African, 18-year-old female, have been talking to a guy, 19-year-old South Asian guy, for a couple of months. We were each other's first everything, including losing our V-cards to each other about a week and a half ago. He was planning to ask me to be his girlfriend next week when he returns from visiting his parents. However, things got bad. I accidentally called his cell phone while his mom was in the car with him, not knowing they were in the car with him, and she saw my contact. She started interrogating him and asking what I do, who I am, and what I am to him, and what our relationship is. He eventually admitted that we'd been talking for a couple of months and that he intended to ask me to be his girlfriend soon. His mom freaked out and went silent, giving him the silent treatment the whole day and not happy about this at all. She told him that she wouldn't accept me because I'm not South Asian or Hindu. Since then, his parents have been giving him the silent treatment, and when they got home, they even had a heated argument about it. His mom warned him that if they found out he continues to pursue a romantic relationship with me, they will force him into an arranged marriage. They've told him he can still be friends with me, but nothing romantic. This sucks for the both of us, as he doesn't want to be with someone else, and he said he was hoping it would have been me and him instead. He's hurting and feels guilty for what's happening, and I'm upset too. Before this, he told me his parents were strict but not in the dating department, and that they didn't care, but that as long as who he dated took education seriously, didn't interfere with his studies or influence him negatively. He's such a sweet guy who's always made time for me. He helped me move in, built all my furniture, and buys me cute gifts whenever he sees something that reminds him of me. He never pressured me for anything sexual or to do anything. I know he really cares about me, and it's clear that this situation is weighing heavily on him because he feels like crap that this is hurting. I feel so guilty knowing I accidentally did something that is not only messing up his relationship with his parents, but that is hurting him like crazy. I've been crying almost every day since it happened earlier this week because of the guilt as well as the hurt, knowing we have to be only friends. Knowing we both already said the L word to each other, are each other's firsts everything, and that I lost it to him, but now we're being reduced to friends. I'm grateful that we can still be friends, and that he still will be in my life somehow, but it's painful knowing how strict his parents are, and how this is impacting him, especially given how hard he works both in school and everything else. Anyway, a short summary would be he's just a baby, and I told him I would never make him choose between his family or me, but I just think it's outrageous that they would do a 180 like this and out of nowhere not accept it. Just based on seeing my contacts show up. I've never met them, and he's never mentioned me to them before this either. They didn't even know I existed or seen what I look like or met me, and they're hurting him like this. Especially because I'm not a bad influence on him and don't understand what it is they think is so bad. I don't drink or do drugs, I get good marks, I have a stable job, I don't sleep around, and I have a good major that will get me a proper job after he and I graduate. I mean, really, the problem starts and ends here with the boyfriend. It's one thing if their parents will never support this relationship, but it will never work if they're not willing to stand up to it. I mean, if they say they can't go against it, then I guess, they can't go against it. I mean, it hurts, but there's still a long highway of life to live ahead of OP anyways. I mean, if he's just not ready to commit, or it's just not realistic because of his current living situation or whatever, that's what it is, but it hurts. Far Satisfaction 365 commented, "You two are young, but unless or until your not quite boyfriend is willing to stand up to his family, you won't be his girlfriend ever. And unless he's willing to completely cut his parents out of his life, they'd make his and your lives miserable if you did become boyfriend and girlfriend, or even, gasp, married. But I guess you wouldn't need to worry about them treating you horrible, because the moment they found out he was still seeing you as a partner and not a friend, they'd be forcing him to marry the right kind of woman, and he'd not stop them." Our next story is, "My dad told me I could disappear forever for all he cares." This happened just yesterday. I'm a 26-year-old man and I just got out of mild surgery. I am 1.92 meters and around 120 plus kilograms. This is important for later. Recently, I had an important mild surgery to remove a pigment on my body that could cause me more health problems down the line. And because of it, my body is doing its best to heal after the surgery, and I sadly got a bit sick. Also, since it's getting cold. I'm a mess, sick, body still healing, and a bit tired from it all, but of course I'm doing the best I can because I live on my own. Me and my dad do have a side job where we work on electrical product reviews for companies, and I help him out. A part of this side job is filling up paperwork and a PDF documentation. I told my dad that I'm a bit sick and that of course I'm healing, so he offered to bring me some much needed groceries and even some medication. Through our work days with him, I've noticed that week by week he's become more and more aggressive towards me about comments about my body. He's been trying past last months to get me to lose weight because I'm getting fat, and I agreed, and I'm slowly taking the steps to work on it, of course. But lately he became really mean and nasty about it, screaming at me, calling me fat, and constantly pointing fat people like, "If you aren't going to lose weight, you'll look like that one day." Mind to mention, I'm not like morbidly obese or anything health critical. I'm happy the way I am, and I'm in fact actually doing something about losing weight, but it's not instant. Last week, he called me throughout the 3 hours of working 5 times, making a comment about my weight. Even made me stand on an industrial scale to see how heavy I am, throwing a fit when he saw it. And later at a pub when we went for lunch, he loudly talked about how messed up I am. How all of this is going to cause me serious medical problems. How I'm going to end up sick and dying early. The problem is my dad is a dang hypocrite. I learned to just take it and ignore his comments, and the fact that I'm not allowed to complain and he gets mad at me when I mention something he does wrong is just really the fundamental hypocrisy incarnate. He used to come out of it being caring, but what was once care now turned into obsession and harassment. Because now he's just being mean to me because he hates to literally look at me and that I'm not his ideal son. God forbid talking with him about sexuality and gay, bi, trans, people that I'm one of and I respect. But the fact that he cannot drop it hurts me. It's just the fact that he thinks I should do whatever he says because you are my son and you will do what I tell you to. Anyway, back to the story. The day comes and he arrives next to my apartment and I walk out wearing my PJs to make sure to stay warm. Wearing obviously underwear too since, I'm walking outside in public, looking tired, sick, and a bit messy since I didn't shower that day, and handed him over a USB with a finished work. Telling him I'll later have the rest done, but because I'm sick, I didn't feel like doing much and that we know it can wait too. He then got me to help with the groceries, me already thanking him for the help of course, and him making a comment. "Oh, I might have to use the toilet if you don't mind." And I replied that of course not, it's not a bother. We walk up the few steps and dropping off the groceries next to my door and me getting my keys when this conversation happens. He says, "Wait, are you wearing underwear under your PJs? What have I told you about wearing underwear under your PJs? It's going to cause you to hurt your waist and you need that area to breathe so it doesn't hurt down the line and..." Insert more health-based information. Out of pure annoyance, sickness combined, and not sounding rude or mean, just annoyed and in a weakened state after a recent surgery. "For Christ, Dad, could you at least one day whenever you see me say something without making a single comment about what I'm doing wrong in your..." He jumps in, "You know what, if you're going to be this mean and disrespecting me like this, you can take care of yourself on your own. I go out of my way to get here and help you and you're going to be this rude to me?" Me, instantly putting on an even calmer demeanor, No, Dad. I didn't mean it like that. It's just whenever you say something, it has to attack my character, and you're just being mean at this point. He replies, you know what? You die for all I care. That moment, I just froze. Look at him slowly angling my head to meet his eyes. Surely he was just joking. Me giving him the benefit of the doubt. Ask him again. You're just joking, right? You seriously cannot mean that to your own family. I kid you not, he doubles down. He says, yeah, my insert coworker was right about you, that you need to find out when you get older and see how much messed up you get, how freaked up you get, and when you'll be laying in your deathbed, you'll know it's all your fault. I just stood shook. We barely spoke after. He used the bathroom, said goodbye in a very rude and annoyed tone, slamming the door behind him as he leaves. After, I right away called my mom to explain what just happened, and she was livid with him. My mom and dad are divorced, and we talked about what just happened. Her even willing to call him to give him a piece of her mind, to which I of course didn't want to do, mentioning it would just make him mad and he would probably do something really that he could harm himself and make it my fault. We talked about it and decided that it's best to cut him out and ignore talking to him unless it's something urgent, because if I would just let it go, it wouldn't get much worse. The thing is, I am autistic and have ADHD, I work differently from others, and of course, even I am reasonable enough to understand how messed up this is. And even under a lot of stress and pressure like my dad was, I would never say something disgusting and cruel to anyone. And even this situation is something that a normal person would still need help with. I am honestly shook from all of this. This really got me anxious and scared because my dad was always to freak out and throw a fit, but it was usually over something small or something that I didn't have to worry much about, as it was mostly justified frustration. But I acknowledge that he'd been acting sick, and I believe it may come from loneliness and depression. So I'm of course giving him the benefit of the doubt because he was there for me most of my life and always made sure he helped me with anything I needed, but these days he makes it feel like I owe him. I'm not really looking for any advice since, as I said, I know what the right action here is with someone who I partially share a similar mindset with, but it really scared me and got me stressed out about it because I seriously cannot be the one who thinks this is messed up. Please do feel free to give me your feedback, and I will most likely update this post later. I hope that this post isn't too much extreme, as I'm seriously looking for others' opinions and maybe some advice how to deal with this further on, even if I know I have a plan. Thank you for reading my post. Quick edit, forgot to mention since I didn't feel it was important information, but it might give you a better idea of what kind of person my dad is. More about my dad. My dad was very supportive throughout my life, and despite my parents' early divorce around 5 years when I was born, he did his best to raise me and was happy to have me. He clearly does care about me and helps out the best he can, but I believe there's something that is really causing him to act out of norm. Again, I believe there might be something sinister going on in his head. My dad is in his late 50s, he's diabetic, and requires insulin to maintain his sugar level. He wears prescription glasses, has mild medical issues that limits his movement, and does daily exercise to stay in shape. He rarely smokes and drinks only at special occasions or when he likes to relax. He loves jazz, and I really empathize that sadly he has a broken dream of having a band. He practices frequently on his guitar and even sports guitar classes for others and is really good at it too. To explain, my dad isn't exactly mean or spineless, but I feel like he's a broken man, molded by a cold concrete punk environment of a depressed little town that he loves so much to complain about, but he doesn't do anything about. After the divorce, he didn't seek out happiness to find a partner or attempted to make his dream a reality. He used to be very rebellious in his young age, and I feel like the older he gets, the meaner he is. I feel like my dad is just a very mentally ill person, and I'm trying my best to understand and help him as much as I can, but it just hurts seeing him like this. He has nobody and he refuses to get help, ends up distancing themselves from him, and including me now. I don't believe there's something wrong exactly with him having some kind of mental illness, but I believe he's just losing touch with reality because of the isolation he's putting himself into. He's experienced a lot of hardship in his life, forced into communism and his mom dying because of Alzheimer's. I feel like this is very important to mention, as some people thought my dad is a vile being. Yes, he is being abusive, but he refuses to listen to me or people and acknowledge it. freaking out like a child the moment someone criticizes him. It is really hard to get to someone when they're acting more immature than their own offsprings. I definitely don't disagree with OP that it could be environmental, the situation, the loneliness, but also I wouldn't be so quick to just rule out anything medical facing, maybe not even mental illness related, but even physically. Emotional changes and outbursts and things, it could be a physical medical issue too. The problem though is, like OP highlighted, they're not going to acknowledge it, they're not going to take any kind of accountability. So oftentimes I think when you have a situation like this, it's going to be hard to even get them to try to get diagnosed or looked at. I've heard a lot of stories of people in similar situations who are probably the fastest people to say, everything's fine, I'm not doing that. Federal Message 1676 commented, if it hurts you too much, really take your distance and protect yourself. I'm a family woman, ADHD too, but it saved me. I tried many times to save my toxic dad, but every time I came back, he was horrible with me. And emotionally, I couldn't cope with it. Then I took distance, growing stronger emotionally, and now it's okay staying at a safe distance. Take care of your suffering first before taking care of his. Reading the monk Thich Nhat Hanh helped me a lot. OP responded saying, I very much empathize with you in this, since this is a very similar situation. The worst thing is I feel like a lot of the stress and weight falls onto my shoulders, since I feel like my dad is the kind of person who would hurt himself in one way or another and make it my fault. I have a problem where I feel really guilty and bad for others more than myself, and again, I most likely plan to distance myself from him. I can only hope he'll realize what he's doing is wrong. Our next story is, you don't look Japanese. My parents were watching playoffs, the World Series, and they had interviews on some of the Japanese players, and they even spoke in Japanese and translated each other. As a Japanese American who doesn't get to see people like me often, I said it's so cool seeing guys who look like me on sports teams. My racist dad gives me a bizarre look and replies, just like you, in a sarcastic tone, as if I said something really silly. I then said, they also look like my brother too. In which my father replied, you don't look Japanese, you're Asian. I told my dad I was never seen or treated as white, and my whitewashed brother was like, everyone treated me the same. I'm ashamed of my father for marrying a woman from Japan, only to deny his own children like this. I'm so freaking ashamed of my dad. He married a Japanese woman who heavily raised me in our culture, took us over there growing up, and I formed deep connections with the motherland, only for them to deny my ethnicity and culture? Unfortunately, the whole family is whitewashed and corrupt like this. When OP says the whole family, I'm assuming they don't mean their mom? Like, are they talking about just the whole dad side of the family? Because if so, honestly, makes a lot of sense. If that's the case, it's all on the paternal side. You see where he learned it from. Million commented, as a white person, I would tell your father he doesn't look like a racist idiot, but here we are. That all depends on whether you're still financially dependent on him though. I don't want you to get hurt. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.